Welcome to this explainer. So, if you've ever felt that kind of strange, static-like tingle cascading down the back of your neck while watching someone, I don't know, fold towels or whisper into a microphone, you've probably wondered what on earth is happening inside your head. For a really long time, the narrative around ASMR, Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, has treated it like some sort of quirky internet magic. People say it releases feel-good chemicals, and usually just stop right there. But today, our goal is to shift that narrative entirely. We are moving away from vague internet myths and stepping firmly into concrete neurochemistry. Because the truth is, those tingles, they are absolutely not magic, and they are certainly not random. They are pure observable chemistry.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. The mystery of the chills, the 4 ASMR brain chemicals, scanning the reward system, oxytocin and personal attention, what we still don't know, and finally, how to work with your brain tonight.
All right, part 1, the mystery of the chills. I want you to picture this scenario. Scientists took a group of people who consistently get powerful electric chills down their spine from listening to their absolute favorite music. Then, they gave them a common, safe medication called naltrexone. Now, naltrexone has a very specific job. It blocks the brain's opioid receptors. The researchers literally watched the pleasure just drain right out of the experience. The music they were listening to was exactly the same. The people in the room were the same. But those profound chills completely faded away. Why? Because a single class of brain chemical was temporarily blocked. This incredible experiment, led by Mallik and neuroscientist Daniel Levitin, fundamentally proves that our physical reactions to sensory stimuli are tied to tangible molecules.
And that brings us to the core thesis of today's explainer. ASMR is not one uniform feeling produced by a single magic chemical. It's actually a small cocktail. Your brain runs on neurotransmitters and neurohormones. These are the chemical messengers that carry signals between cells, dictating your mood, your alertness, your sense of safety, and your pleasure. In the ASMR cocktail, it's a highly specific blend, and every single ingredient does a very distinct, important job.
Let's move to part 2. 4 ASMR brain chemicals.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact recipe for the tingles. First up, we have dopamine. This is the reward and motivational chemical. It basically sends the, "wow, that felt good, do it again," signal to your brain. Second, we have endorphins, or more accurately, your endogenous opioids. These are your body's homemade painkillers and pleasure molecules. They're actually the exact same chemicals responsible for the runner's high, and their job here is to set the intensity of that pleasurable rush you feel. Third is oxytocin. This is the social bonding chemical. It naturally spikes during hugs, gentle touch, and moments of deep trust and closeness. And finally, GABA. GABA acts as the brain's main calming brake. It's the inhibitory messenger that steps in to just quiet down an overactive nervous system. Together, these 4 messengers create the whole shebang, the complete ASMR experience.
Which brings us to part 3, scanning the reward system. We really have to start with dopamine here, because we have the absolute clearest brain evidence for it. Back in 2018, Lochte and his colleagues published the very first fMRI study of ASMR in the journal BioImpacts. They took people who reliably experienced tingles, placed them inside a functional MRI scanner, and had them signal the exact moments the tingles washed over them. When those tingles hit, a specific region lit up like a Christmas tree, the nucleus accumbens. This is the central hub of your brain's dopamine-driven reward system. The researchers proved that this dopamine center actively fires right at the exact moments responders feel the tingles.
But, the researchers noticed something else absolutely fascinating. The brain's activation pattern during ASMR didn't just look unique, it looked strikingly identical to 2 other very specific human experiences, which we can kind of call its twin phenomena. The first is musical frisson, those intense chills you get from a great song. And the second is affiliative behavior, which is just the fancy scientific term for social bonding. Your brain essentially processes the tingles of ASMR through the exact same reward circuitry it uses when you are deeply moved by music or when you're connecting with a loved one.
Now, let's connect our earlier naltrexone story back into this circuitry. Remember that 2017 Mallik and Levitin study, the one where they used medication to block the brain's opioid receptors and ruined everyone's favorite music? Well, because we now know from the fMRI scans that ASMR activates the exact same reward circuitry as those musical chills, endorphins become the leading scientific explanation for the pleasurable, glowing sensation of the tingle itself. It's literally your endogenous opioids kicking in, setting the intensity of that rush.
Let's shift gears to part 4, oxytocin and personal attention.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how human behavior links directly to our neurohormones. A foundational 2015 study by Emma Barat and Nick Javis, published in the journal PeerJ, surveyed nearly 500 people to find out what actually causes their ASMR. The top triggers they identified were whispering, personal attention, crisp, gentle sounds, and slow, careful movements. If you think about it, almost every single one of these triggers perfectly simulates someone caring for you closely and gently. And what happens when we experience gentle, attentive care? Our brains release oxytocin, the bonding chemical. The creators are essentially simulating a deeply trusting social environment to trigger that release.
And we actually have biological proof to back up this oxytocin theory. In 2020, a functional connectivity study led by Smith and colleagues discovered that experiencing ASMR directly alters the activity in the medial prefrontal cortex. Why does that matter? Because this is a region of the brain that is absolutely packed with oxytocin receptors. It provides physical evidence that the social bonding aspects of ASMR are leaving a measurable footprint right there in your brain. But ASMR isn't just exciting, it's deeply, deeply relaxing. How? Enter GABA. A 2018 PLOS ONE study by Julia Poerio and her team actually measured the physical body during ASMR. They found that people experiencing tingles showed a measurable drop in heart rate, occurring simultaneously with the rise in positive emotion. A slowing heart is the biological signature of your parasympathetic nervous system engaging. That's your rest and digest mode. Since GABA is the brain's main inhibitory messenger, it acts as the brake pedal. It's the final ingredient in the cocktail that ensures the rush of dopamine and endorphins feels relaxing rather than totally overstimulating.
Moving on to part 5, what we still don't know.
While this evidence is super compelling, we have to acknowledge the caveats. The crucial point is that most of what I've just described is inferred from watching which brain regions switch on during an fMRI scan. We aren't directly measuring these chemical levels in the blood in real time. Furthermore, the clearest direct chemical evidence we have, that naltrexone study blocking endorphins, was performed on music-induced chills, not ASMR tingles directly. Plus, the sample sizes in this emerging field of study are still relatively small. To date, nobody has run the direct chemical blocking experiment on ASMR itself. It's an incredibly exciting frontier, but we have to be honest about where the science currently stands.
And finally, part 6, work with your brain tonight. Now that you know the ingredients, you can intentionally mix your own brain cocktail. Here are 5 scientifically grounded steps you can take tonight. Step 1. If you want that warm oxytocin bonding feeling, deliberately lean into personal attention triggers rather than just object sounds. Step 2. Use headphones. A vast amount of ASMR is recorded binaurally to simulate close physical proximity. Step 3. Protect your dopamine response. Dopamine thrives on novelty, so if you're losing your tingles, rotate your creators and trigger types to keep your reward center guessing. Step 4. Give it time. Remember GABA? That calming, heart-slowing parasympathetic response needs about 10 to 15 minutes to fully build, so don't rush it. And Step 5. Mind your attention. Every single one of these chemical systems depends entirely on you being mentally present and open to the experience.
So, to wrap this all up, ASMR is chemistry, not coincidence. You are literally summoning dopamine for reward, endorphins for the pleasurable rush, oxytocin for the warmth of feeling cared for, and GABA to act as your calming brake to settle it all down. The science is still young, and yes, it's beautifully unfinished, but understanding the tangible mechanisms behind the magic makes it all the more fascinating, doesn't it? So, armed with this brand new knowledge of your own neurochemistry, I have to ask, are you ready to mix your own beautifully unfinished brain cocktail tonight? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and enjoy the tingles.